When we're done, it's going to look something like this. Let's do it. Okay, so right here, we got our inspiration. If you want this, the GitHub repo is in the description. I'm going to move this over to this other screen so I can look at it as we do it. Right here, we got this blank Next.js page. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to add this header. So we're going to come in here. We're going to say header, and we're going to have an H1 that says prop mind. And then we're going to have a div. And in this div, we're going to have, actually, we're going to make these Next.js links. We need to import this from Next.js. And then for this first one, we're going to say login. And then for the next one, we're going to say get started. And so this is going to cause an error. We need an href for each of these. I'm just going to make these set to investment. So both of them will be investment. Let's also come up to this header and we'll give it a class name. We'll say flex and we'll say justify between. We'll also say a height of 20 and we'll say item center. We can also say border B. We'll actually do border B of 2 and we'll say border black. Let's actually see what just border B looks like. Yeah, we'll just do border B. Also in this header, we can do a px of 8. We'll come down to this div. We'll give it a class name. We'll say flex. We'll give it a gap of 2. And then we'll come below this link and we will import from Lucid React a menu. So to get Lucid React, all you do is come down to the terminal and you say, if you're using npm, you say npm I lucid-react. And so now we got this menu right here. We can also come in here and give this a class name and say size of 10. Also on this div right here, say item center. And then instead of a gap of 2, I'm going to give it a gap of 4. And also I'm going to come up here, instead of this px8, I'm going to say px4. So we can also come to this prop mind, give it a class name, say text 3xl. We'll actually do 2xl. And the inspiration has this little logo. I'm not going to add that. So for each of these links, we can give them both a class name and we can say a py of 3 and a px of 4. And we'll just for now say bg red 300. And then we can say rounded full for each of them. I'm actually going to give them a px of 6. And let's see a py of 2. We'll do 3. So for the first one, there's no background and we're just going to give it a border. We're going to say border black. And then for the second one, we're going to say BG black. And we're going to say text white. And then also I'm going to say border and then say border black. Just so these things are the exact same size. And this now looks a little bit too tall. So I'm going to give them both a py of 2. So let's see what this thing looks like as it gets smaller. So let's see. I'm going to open up the dev tools and I'm going to say, let's see what it looks like on the Samsung Galaxy S8. So this is not what we want. So what I'm going to do is on both of these links, I'm going to say hidden and then small, it turns to block. So we're going to do that for both of these. So hidden and then small, it turns to block. And so now when this thing gets larger, those buttons will pop up. And then you would just add those buttons to the drop down menu. So we got the header done. Now let's move on to this bottom part. So we're going to call this main. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to give this a class name of grid. And I'm going to say grid calls. We're going to have 4 columns. And I'm going to say grid rows. And we're going to have 3 rows. I'm also going to say a BG of red 400 for now. So in order to make this main show, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say a height of full. And then I'm going to come up to the outermost div. We're going to give this a class and we're going to say flex call. And then we're going to say min height screen. And actually, instead of this height full, we're going to get rid of that. And we're just going to say flex 1. And so now we can come in this main and we can create a div. And we're going to give this a class name. We're going to say BG blue 400. And we're going to say row span 3. And then we're also going to say call span 2. And then we're going to make 3 more divs. And this one is going to be BG purple 300, and we'll say row span 2. And then for this one, we'll say BG green 300, and we'll say row span 2. And then now for this bottom one, we'll just say BG yellow 300, and we'll say call span 2. So now I'm going to come below this main. I'm going to create a div, and we're just going to give it a class name, and we're going to say a height of 20. And then I'm going to go below this, and I'm going to add a footer. And for this, I'm going to give it a height of 20. And for this one, I'm actually going to give it a height for now of 16, and we'll say BG black. So now for this footer, we can make this a flex, and we'll say justify between. And in here, we can have a div, which is also going to be flex. And in this div, it's going to say terms policy. We're going to wrap this in a p tag. We can paste that down and then turn this one into customer story. And then right here, another p tag. And we can add a bullet point. And so now what we have to do on this flex, we say items center. And on this footer, we can say a px of 4. And so now in this div, we can say a gap of 2. We'll actually go a gap of 4. Now we can, outside of this div, create a p tag and say copyright at PropMind 2023. And then come up to this footer and say item center. So now we got the footer done. And so this div right here is going to have a bunch of stock tickers that is going to have an infinite scroll. So we're going to do that at the end. Now let's go up to each of these divs. We'll start with the blue one, and we're going to have a p tag that says bringing security to your life. And then beneath that, an H1 that says money investment. And then beneath that, we're going to have a div. And in this div, we're going to have 2 more divs. And each div is going to have a p tag. This first one's going to say wealth investment. And then the next p tag is going to say up to 10M plus USD. And so we can copy this div right here. And then instead of wealth investment, it's going to say portfolio manage. And then this one is going to say 5 accounts. And then also we can add to both of these from Lucid React, move up right. So we can copy that, add it to the other one. Also now we can give both of these divs, make them both flex. And on this div right here, I'm going to say a margin top of 20. And we'll come to this H1. We'll give it a class name and we'll say text 5XL. And we'll say font bold. And I'm also going to change this so it's all caps. Actually, we can do that with Tailwind. And I'm also going to say a leading of 7. Okay, actually, I'm going to say a leading of 10. Okay, I'm actually going to say a leading of brackets, and we'll say 56 pixels. We can do a little more. So let's say 72 pixels. And I think we can make this text even larger. So instead of 5XL, I'm going to say 6XL. And now I'm going to make this leading 100 pixels, which is basically just the line height. I'm going to come to this p tag. We're going to give this a class name. We're going to say text XL. And I'm going to come to this div, and I'm going to say a PT of 20. And I'm also going to say a PX of 4. And when we hit medium, we'll say a PX of 10. Actually, I'm going to say once we hit large. I'm actually going to turn this large PX of 10 to large PX of 16. See what that looks like. Yeah, that looks good. I'm also going to change this from 100 PX to 80 PX. And then I'm going to give this a margin top of 4. And on this P tag right here, it says bringing security. And then we're going to wrap this your life in a P tag. And so for this div right here, I'm going to say border Y. And I'm going to say border black. And I'm going to give this a PY of 2. And then underneath this div, I'm going to add an HR tag. And I'm going to give it a class name. I'm going to say text black. Actually, we have to say border black. And then I'm going to give this an MY of 2. Actually, I'm going to give this an MY of 4 and then come up to this one and give this a PY of 4. And so now each of these divs, I'm going to say justify between. Do it to this one as well. And then I'm just going to, in each of these P tags, add a slash like that. Actually, that is not what we should do. So I'm going to say, I'm going to get rid of this justify between. I'm going to go to this first P tag. I'm going to add a class name. I'm going to say flex1. I'm going to come to this P tag. I'm going to give it a class name and I'm going to say flex1 as well. And then we're going to come up here and do the same to this. So give this a class name of flex1. Come to this class name flex1. And also I'm going to wrap this slash in a span tag. And I'm going to give it a class name and I'm going to say margin right of 2. And then do the same down here. So get rid of this, add a span tag, add the slash, class name, margin right 2. Also, I'm going to come up here to the div and I'm going to say a px of 1. And so now for these move up rights, I'm going to give this a class name. I'm going to say bg black. I'm going to say rounded full text white. And I'm going to say a width of 10 and a height of 6. I'll actually give it a height of 7. No, we're going to not do anything in the height. We're going to say a PY of 2. I'm actually going to give it a PY of 1. And then I'm going to give it a height of 8. And then instead of this width of 10, we'll go width 12. And actually we'll go height of 7. And then a width of 10. Yeah, we'll go like that. And so now we can just copy this right here, come down to this other one, and paste it in. So now we need to add the gradient. Well, first let's see what this looks like as this gets larger. It looks... So I need to make it so this money investment is always 2 lines. So in order to do that, I'm going to wrap this investment in an H1. And let's see if that does it. Yep. So to add this gradient, I'm going to say BG gradient dash B. And I'm going to say from white, I'm going to say to blue 300. And this gradient has to be dash 2B. And instead of blue 300, let's go blue 500. And so this is going to be very similar to these right here. So what I'm going to do is copy all the code that is inside of this div right here. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this entire div and then I'm just going to get rid of these right here. And I'm going to add this 3 times. And so now we have to go back and change. So this one is going to be purple and the row span is going to be 2 and the call span is 1. And so now we can go to the green one. And instead of 2 blue, we'll say green. And this is going to be a row span of 1 and a row span of 2 and a call span of 1. And then we can come down to the last one, which is the yellow one. Change this to yellow. And this is going to be a row span of 1 and a call span of 2. So we actually don't need this call span on the purple or the green. And then for the yellow one, we can get rid of this row span. So once we adjust the content, this sizing is going to work. So we're going to come to this purple one, and instead of this P tag, we're going to import zap from Lucid React. And we're going to give this a class name. We're going to say size of 10. Right here, we're going to say a fill equals black. And then instead of this money investment, this is going to say long term. And we can get rid of this leading. And instead of 6XL, let's try 4XL. Let's do 3XL. And then we're going to get rid of this uppercase. We're just going to get rid of the font bold. We're going to say font semi-bold. And then we're going to get rid of this entire div right here. And so now I'm going to do that for all the colors so the sizing goes back to normal. So I'm just going to copy this code right here and paste it in the green one, and then paste it again in the yellow one. So now we got our sizing back to normal. So for this purple one, I'm gonna have a P tag, and I'm gonna add this text in here. So I added that text. Now we're gonna give this a class name. We're gonna say margin top of 4. We're actually gonna go 5. And then beneath this, we're gonna have an HR. We're gonna give this a class name. Then we need to say border black. And we're gonna say a margin top of 10. Actually, let's see if we do auto. And if we turn this div into a flex call. And so now if we have something below this, a P tag that says 10 years CAGR on invest. And so now if we make this div a flex with flex call, and then if we say on this HR margin top of auto, it's going to go all the way to the bottom. I'm also going to say a margin bottom of 2. And then I'm also going to come to this div and I'm going to say a PB of 6. And so beneath this P tag, I'm going to have a div. And in this div, I'm going to have a P tag that's going to say 6.2%. And then we're going to scroll up. We're going to get this move right icon. We're going to copy that. And we're going to paste this. And so now in this div, I'm going to make a space right here. In this div, we're going to make this flex. And we're going to say justify between. And we're also going to say item center. And then for this 6.2, I'm going to give this a class name of text 2XL. And I'm going to say font bold. And then also on this div, I'm going to say a margin top of 2. And then for this P tag, I'm going to give this a class name of text small. And so now what we can do is copy all of this code that's inside the div and paste it in the green one and also in the yellow one. So now we're in the green div. We need to go to the parent div and say flex call. That's in the yellow one. Let me go to the green one. Say flex call. And then also a PB of 6. And for the yellow one, we'll add a PB of 4. Also, what I need to do on the purple one is, instead of this padding top of 20, we're going to get rid of this. And we're going to come to this PB of 6, and we're just going to turn this to P6. And I'm going to do the same for the green. We're just going to say P6. Get rid of this PT20. And the same for the yellow. Instead of this PB4, we're going to say a P of 6. Get rid of this PT20. And so now for this green one, instead of long term, this is going to say short term. Instead of this zap, we're going to import crosshair from Lucid React. And we're going to get rid of this fill. And then I'm going to write the short term text. So now we got the short term text. And then instead of this 10 years, this is going to say 25 years return on invest. I'm also going to come up to this yellow one, and instead of this lowercase I on invest, there's going to be an uppercase I. And then instead of this 6.2%, we're going to go 24.2. So now we can come to this yellow one, and instead of this zap, we're going to say trending up from Lucid React, and we're going to get rid of this fill right here. And this margin top of 4, we're going to remove that. And this margin top of 5, we're going to say a margin top of 3. And also this yellow one, I just noticed the gradient goes from left to right. So we're going to say gradient to right, and we're going to say from yellow 500 to white. And instead of yellow 500, let's go yellow 300. Let's try 200. And instead of this saying long term, this is going to say wealth PMS. And then right here, we're going to write this text. And then right here, this is going to say 30 years. And then this is going to say 28.2. And then also, this right here is going to be a text of extra small. And then when it gets to medium, we'll say, actually, when it gets to large, we'll say text of base. And we're going to also do this. And so now I'm going to add these borders right here. So we're going to go to the blue one, and we're going to say border R, and we're going to say border black. We're going to copy this right here, and we're going to do the same to the purple. And then for the yellow, we're going to paste that as well. But instead of border R, we're going to say border T. So also what I'm going to do, all these large PX of 16, I'm going to change all of those so it says XL PX of 16. And so now in order to make this completely responsive, let's see, 360. Yeah, this needs to be different. So in order to make this responsive, I'm going to come up to this div. I'm going to come up to the main and I'm going to say SM grid. So when the screen is on a mobile device, it's going to look like this. So I'm going to change this text 6L. I'm going to say when it gets too small, that's text 6L. Otherwise, it's text 2XL. And then this leading is only going to exist when it's small. And then also this border is only going to exist when the screen gets too small. We also need to do that on the purple. So SM border right. And then also on the yellow, come down to the yellow and SM before this border top. So when it's on a mobile device, it's going to look like this. And then as the screen gets larger, it's going to turn into the grid. And so what I'm going to do on this blue, let's go back to the blue one. And I'm actually going to say when this becomes medium. So it's going to look like this until it gets to medium. I'm actually going to say large. Instead of medium, we'll say large. So it's going to look like this. And as it grows, when it gets to large, then that becomes the larger text. So now we're going to add this infinite ticker symbol that is constantly moving from right to left. So in order to get these stock tickers, we're going to come to ChatGPT and we're going to type in, make me an array of JS objects where each object has ticker, price, percentage change, and price change. Give me 20. Also, if you want this, you can get it from the GitHub repo. So when that's done, we can copy this. We can come back to here and we can paste this in at the bottom below everything. So we've got stocks right here. So now we can come up to this div and we can have a UL for unordered list. And inside of this UL, we're going to say stocks.map. We're going to say for each stock, I want a list item. And inside of this list item, we're going to have the stock.ticker. We're going to have the stock.price. We're going to have the stock.price change. And then stock.percentage change. And for this unordered list, we're going to say a class name of flex, and we're going to give it a gap of 10. And then we're also going to say a text of white. And then right here, we're going to write animate dash ticker, which is not going to do anything. So now what we do, we come to our tailwind.config file, and then we scroll down to, we go to theme, extend, keyframes, and then we're going to create a keyframe called tickers. So we're going to say 0% transform translate x 0, and at 100%, we're going to say transform translate x. And instead of minus 100%, we're going to say minus 50%, and we're going to say minus 20 pixels. So this 20 pixels, we get this because we're using a gap of 10, which is 40 pixels. So whatever your gap is, the amount of pixels, divide that by 2, and that's what you're going to put right here. So now we come down to animation. We're going to say tickers, and then it's going to say tickers 10 seconds, linear, infinite. So now if we come back to this and we say animate, it's not ticker, it's tickers, and come to this LI and say key equals stock.ticker. And so now if we refresh this, so the reason this isn't working is because we have to wrap this in something that says calc. And so now this is going to start doing something. So in order to see that this is working smoothly, I'm going to change this to 5 seconds. And so that does not look how we want. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this animate tickers, and I'm going to make these look better. So first thing I'm going to say, where this says flex, I'm going to say items center. So for the time being, I'm going to comment all of these out. I'm going to come up to this div. I'm going to say flex. I'm going to say items center. I'm also going to say overflow hidden. And then also right here where this says stocks, I'm going to surround this in brackets. I'm going to say dot, dot, dot. I'm going to say comma, dot, 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 stocks. So it's going to have it twice. So we're going to come right here. We're going to say animate tickers. Let's see what this looks like. And so now this is working pretty good. Let's see if we add the price. Everything's looking good. If we add the price change and if we add the percent change. So now this is working. We come back to this Tailwind config, and instead of 5 seconds, I'm going to make this 10 seconds. Actually, let's do 15 seconds. And so now we just need to make each of these things look good. So for this li, we're going to give this a class name. We're going to say flex. We're going to say bg red 500. Bro, what the fuck is this? I don't understand. Fucking cock tease. Fucking fuck. I'm going to come to this Tailwind config. I'm going to change this from 15 seconds to 20. We'll do 40 for now. That's why it's fucking up. So I need to wrap all of these in a p tag. So once we wrap all of these in a p tag, this is going to start being reasonable. Okay, so now we come to this li and we say flex, and we can say a gap of 2. And so for this ticker, we can say class name, we can say text gray 700. We'll go 500. We'll do the same for the price. We'll say text gray 500. For the price change, we're going to say stock dot price change is greater than 0. Then let's just say for now, we're just going to say a div, otherwise a div. And so right here, we're going to import from Lucid React. We're going to import a triangle. And then for class name, we're going to put this in braces and backticks. And we're going to say $braces. We're going to say stock dot price change. Actually, what we're going to do is this li, what we're going to do, we're going to wrap all of this in braces. And then we have to write the word return. And then right here, we're going to say const, and we're going to say increase, and we're going to say equals stock dot price change is greater than 0. So now we're going to come right here and we're going to say increase. No, we're going to say not increase. And then we're going to say double ampersand. And then we're going to say rotate 180. And then we're also going to say a size of 3. And also in this p tag, we need to say a class name, and we need to say flex items center. We say gap of 1. And then for this triangle, we can say fill equals white. And so for this percent change, we're going to put some braces, and we're going to say increase question mark. We're going to have a plus sign. Otherwise, we're going to have a minus sign. Actually, no, we don't need that. Otherwise, we're going to have nothing. So we can just say increase double ampersand plus. And then we can also say a class name braces backticks, and we can say $braces increase question mark text green 500. Otherwise, text red 500. And we can do the same for the stock price change. So now wrap this in a p tag and then add a class name. We got to make sure it has braces and backticks, and then we can paste that in there. And so now both of these will have the correct color. Now we need to also format this to look like a percent. So all we have to do is just simply add this percent sign. And now this thing is goated. So when it's small, it's looking like this. As it gets larger, it's still looking nice. So there it is. If you learned something, subscribe. You want to learn some more? Watch this video right here. See you next time.